Hello and welcome to Fox and Talen once more back into the breach, talking about 2024's seasonal anime in hindsight and retrospect to let you know what was good and what was present and what we didn't finish watching a third episode of.
In a shocking turn of events for Fox and Talen talk about anime, hello, I'm Fox! I'm
Hi,
here
I'm
again.
Talen. Yes. Sorry for running right over you there. We're proof. We've been doing this for a year and I still can't get that one straight.
Hey, don't worry about it. It's easy to run over someone when they're goblin-sized.
What I love about this is you are sitting on something that's like right next to my desk. Like you're up on a pillow even.
Thanks for telling everyone I'm in the high chair.
Anyway, that was more interesting than a lot of the stuff we saw in 2024 anime, but don't worry, we were still able to watch 3 things this season that made the thumbnail.
Yeah, we're gonna grizzle a lot, but, none of that should be taken as a mark against any of these 3 anime in particular.
So here's the proceed. We're going to go through these anime in broadcast order. I'm going to tell you what they are. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. Fox is going to interrupt me to pronounce the name in the way that's more appropriate to the Japanese that she can pronounce. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we thought of this series.
By the way, since I'm being made fun of.
Because I know what you're going to have to deal with right away. And first up we have... I parry everything. What do you mean I'm the strongest? I'm not even an adventurer yet.
Oh, I had to be
And
the
now-
fucking weeb, didn't I?
Fox will present to the class.
Checking my cue card. 俺はすべてをパリする逆勘違いの世界最強は冒険者になりたい
I'm not here to criticize your pronunciation. You just know why I wouldn't have bothered.
Look, I believe my pronunciation is decent, and my emphasis is probably screwed up as all fuck.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, like, the point of a name is to be a useful reference point. So being able to give the technically correct name for this thing, no one who's listening to this is going to be looking that up based on... And I was like, oh, what was that one with Wakagami in the title?
Look, there's a sweet spot in all things. And while I don't fucking care if people call this I parry everything, I'm very mad when people act like anyone ever called Fushigi Yugi mysterious play.
Aww.
So, this is how I ground myself. Eat it!
I love how you've just managed to retcon all of the different kinds of snobs from anime of the past. Like, this massive survivorship bias of, well, I don't talk to any of the people who called it mysterious disappearances.
No one called... Did I say mysterious disappearances?
No, I just forgot what Fushigi Yugi was called.
Because no one fucking called it that!
No.
Checkmate, atheists!
No one I know, because the only person I know who cares about Fushigi Yugi is me! You don't even care about it that much.
It's not great.
Anyway, I parry everything. Frustratingly, this anime has already had the absolute best joke about it made by Mother's Basement. And unfortunately, it's a Phineas and Ferb joke, so I can't possibly replicate it or deliver it. Go watch his video about it. But I Parry Everything is an anime in your fantasy RPG model with it's a comedy, it's designed to be funny, it's based on a series of light novels, and the central hook is our main character is a complete doofus who has taken one skill and just executed on it so perfectly that he's able to use it for every possible problem he encounters. In this case, it is the defensive skill, parry.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to be a game design brain genius to imagine a scenario where someone could eventually parry things in a way that results in them winning fights rather than just failing to lose them. And it's not a bad show on that front. It's got some perfectly charming stuff going on. But it does escalate, and as a byproduct of its escalation, while on the one hand it's very funny, you have this character tagging along as they invade the enemy empire to topple their bad king, and sitting there going, I don't know why they've got me along, all I can do is block things. I guess I'm just here to help out the way that I can, while all these other people are doing the best they can with their impressive powers. That's kind of funny, and it's definitely a joke that you could handle for about 13 episodes, or 12 in this case.
I was gonna say, that sounds funny the first time. I feel it would grate on me after a while.
Well, I mean, it was great on you after one episode because, like, you didn't watch this show.
Hey, I didn't watch one episode of this and get sick of it. I just went, probably don't need to.
Yeah, but the actual like there are 3 tracks going on here. One, you have just like an actual fantasy anime with a fantasy anime plot with all the normal characters reacting to what they see as clearly a chosen one. Then you have the second plot thread, which is this guy who thinks he is who does not know that he is a badass, doing his best with what he's got and just kind of muddling his way through everything. And that's pretty good. The third track, which I don't like, is the low-key, like, actually he's really supernaturally powerful, and he's the bestest hero of all time, possibly because of his dad, who is a secret, like...
No.
That whole thread is really unnecessary. Like, you could cut that stuff from this series, and it would be better. And this is one of the things... I've talked about this in the past with other anime. I Parry Everything is a good series that is, like, removing 20 minutes away from being a great series. If there was a little less dwelling on the gimmick from his perspective, it would be better. If the dub actors were given a little more room to have a little more life to them, that would be even better. The subs are fine. I just also did watch it dubbed and, for do a side-by-side comparison. If I'm watching without Fox, I will occasionally watch it dubbed to see, hey, are they doing a good job these days? And sometimes they are.
I see someone show.
That is true. That is definitely a thing that pulled me to watching the Odd Taxi dub. But I Parry Everything has just enough hints of places where this good-natured himbo doing his best for the people around him. Like, his reasons generally are really good. Like, there is a point where he gets offered, effectively, like, treasure and jewels and praise and whatnot, and he avoids that because, what do I know how to do? Bonus dog content.
Bonus dog content.
But he makes a point of, like, all I know how to do is avoid things, so I guess I'll avoid this as well. He parries being the object of affection. That's pretty good. And every time there is a point where people are praising someone, are praising him, and he needs to, for the plot to work, that he needs to accept that praise, he has a good excuse for why he's doing it. Like, oh, I guess I have to pretend that was me who defeated the dragon, because otherwise people will think this person who I thought defeated the dragon is a dangerous magician and we need to kill them. So, yeah, sure, I totally defeated the dragon. And he actually did defeat the dragon, and that's kind of an interesting gimmick. Similarly, like, there are problems that are solved by, defeating a dragon by not killing it and it deciding, oh, actually, I can handle this, let's be friends. Like, there's good stuff in this show.
I found myself, like, really wishing from the pitch that they had gone, like, full himbo with it. And, like, he was just an absolute hunk. Like, I'm sure he's supposed to be attractive, but,
he's just not your kind of attractive. He's not a Gary.
Not, like, preposterously attractive, though.
No.
Like, I would find it... I would like for him to be comically hot.
Yeah, and he is just very hot. By a particular kind of hot.
I think he's supposed to be, like, movie average.
I don't know. But, the places where it falls down is when the surrounding environment around him acts like a normal fantasy story. Like, they make a big point when they defeat the villain of like, don't worry, we're not going to kill you. Instead, we're going to torture you and heal you and torture you and heal you until you're sorry. It's like, that's worse.
Wait, is that a thing the good guys do?
That's a thing the good guys do.
Oh, that's substantially worse.
That's substantially worse. Dang it, series. This is where a very immature kind of fantasy wish fulfillment runs into this space of what was otherwise like a very fun, dumb RPG mechanics as story kind of thing comes up.
The old, you're gonna be astonished how many things are war crimes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. Like I said, this series would be really good if you could take one whole episode's worth of time out of it, shorten up a lot of the fights, cut a bunch of the ropier sequences and a little less of the reliance on some of the worst shots of the dragon, and just a couple of things that the main characters and her heroes say, and the entire subplot around, actually, he's the best mage of all time, he's just too dumb to know he's the best mage. Because otherwise, this guy's really nice, and and the whole premise of, what do you mean I'm the strongest, I'm not even an adventurer yet, is like, he hasn't successfully registered with a guild, because he hasn't mastered any skills beyond parry. So he's doing level 0 jobs, which is helping little old ladies with their shopping and cleaning gutters and getting cats out of trees. And I like that. I like the idea of the Adventurers Guild as sort of an all-purpose job deployment zone. In which case, like, yeah, we've got odd jobs, we've got little stuff.
I do genuinely like that. I dislike how much the Adventurers Guild as a, like, fucking grading system has become ubiquitous in fantasy anime.
Yeah.
Like, this rank and that classification, and I haven't passed my exam for dumb fuck mark, and
Yeah.
gets very frustrating.
It is funny because on the one hand, it does replicate a real world thing, like an accreditation system. Like, we have those are real. But then it also weaves into it with, and the people from our system are capable of destroying continents, at which point it's like, why aren't you the global superpower?
Yes, and they're also, like, because they overwhelmingly appear in wish fulfillment, everyone underestimated my true power stories, they always tend to have really stupid grading systems.
Yeah.
Is the main thing, where you can't just look at a guy who can kill the most powerful bad guy and go, okay, maybe we should work something out about this.
Yeah.
Maybe our system needs to adapt.
And they do make a point, like, everyone who can test this guy can go, like, yeah, well, he only knows the most basic things. This is a guy who effectively knows the level 0 moves. He's just real good at them. And when he defeats an important thing, anyone who didn't see it is like, yeah, but how? How, though? I don't see how.
You know what it is? It's like turning every ability into wizard school.
Yeah.
And that gets on my tits.
Yeah. So, yeah, perfectly good little series, but I've forgotten about most of it already, except the things that upset me.
So this is sort of on par with Campfire Cooking in Another World, or
It's better than that.
Weakest Tamer.
I mean, I watched all of this, and I cared about how it ended, whereas Campfire Cooking in Another World could have jumped off a cliff on the 3rd episode and I wouldn't remember it.
Well, I mean, nothing happened in
Yeah.
particular, so yeah.
Yeah. And also, those are isekai. Those are very much that cool, chill, healing kind of anime. Whereas this is actually meant to be a
Isekai.
comedy with a drama. An event or series of events happen, and he is meant to do things that are badass. Like, to propel him into the battlefield quickly, one of his friends shoots a spell at his back, and he parries it, which flings him through the air like a comet. See? You
fun.
laughed. That's a
Yeah.
good bit.
No, I like that. That's the kind, like, that's the thing your D&D group does one time, and it's really funny the first time, and then the next time the GM is like,
That can't work. We can't keep
oh,
doing
no,
this.
now it has to work every time. I have to do something about this.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got to say out of a perfectly good 6 out of 10 series.
Alrighty.
Sakana of Rice and Ruin, aka...
Don't be a smart ass, Talen. It's just called Sakana of Rice and Ruin.
I knew she'd have some ones to get annoyed about today.
At least including the title you gave me. I thought it did have a Japanese title, but apparently not.
Not according to the Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Someone's lying or someone's dumb.
What do you got for this one, Fox?
I mean, I don't really have anything much worthy to comment about this. We tried to give this a go.
Yeah.
And it just didn't get us. I'm sort of into the idea, but I think watching one episode of it made me realize that if I wanted this story, I should really just go play the game.
Yeah. It's almost like games have different story needs than TV series. Maybe we shouldn't be doing direct translations of them.
I mean, I feel like one episode isn't enough to totally fairly judge that. It might be a perfectly good series the rest of the time. I doubt it would do anything that you were interested in, even if so.
Yeah.
But like there was a lot of weird pacing and just like suddenly all these characters and we know nothing about any of them and have no reason to care about them, and it definitely felt like something where you were expected to come in with the foreknowledge of the game, and
Yeah.
I just am not going to invest in something like that.
If you don't care about this is not going to tell you how to care about this.
I feel like that's true.
Alright then. Moving on.
Also, upsettingly cheap, unfortunately.
Man, I timed that badly then. Hey!
Fucking gorgeous!
The Elusive Samurai.
Oh, sorry, I need to pull out my translation notes. Nige Josu no Wakagimi.
So the Elusive Samurai gets to join Windbreaker and something else from this year, which is, when I watched some of it, I went and read... Oh, Hokkaido Gals are super adorable. So I went and watched a bit of the anime and went, yep, I'm going to read all the manga. And I went and read the manga for the Elusive Samurai, and this series absolutely owns bones. And the anime is a shockingly good execution on that manga. The premise of this historical dramatization is taking a period of Japanese history that is extremely shakily recorded. And this is a complex issue to talk about historically and archivally, because when we say a period of Japanese history that is shakily recorded, recordings take many forms. One of them is, for example, genealogies. We have a surprising number of names of people who existed in this period, and general times we can be confident they lived, but not confident when they were born or confident when they died. Similarly, this is a period where we know certain things moved around and certain sites and locations changed in their importance, but we can't be sure how.
And just a lot of really long lists of such and such was in this battle against such and such.
Yes, and that is complicated further by there being a lot of lying going on. There is a lot of material history, like weapons and items of significance, that has some information you can rely on, but is also unreliable because it gets preserved by particular types of people. If you're in Japan and you go looking to museums for historically significant weapons, you're going to find a lot of katanas and almost no spears. This isn't because people in the past didn't use spears.
That's because swords have great PR.
It's because the people at the time who were preserving these weapons were preserving spears. Sorry, weren't preserving spears. So there is a lot of stuff in this period of history that effectively gives you this giant grab bag of interesting things, and things you're pretty confident have to happen in a certain sequence of orders. Like, this character has to have been born before they killed someone, which means they had to have lived at roughly similar times, which means the death probably happened after all that kind of thing. But there's also just a lot of shaky history. What we're following in this is a story of Hojo Tokiyuki. I'm pretty confident that's right, and if it's not completely right, whatever.
Oh, that was good.
As he deals with the Akagare, I think it is, rebellion / consolidation, because of course...
Whose side are you on?
Exactly, whose side are you on? And like, I've read the manga, I'm on Hojo's side, but only because I've read the manga, I'm not actually on his side. He was also a feudal lord. Death to fucking kings. But the nature of the story is one which positions itself following Hojo as, at the age of 9, his family is wiped out, and he is picked out from the ruins of his collapsed province by a Myojin, a living god in Shinto tradition, who has visions of the future and claims that he knows Hojo will do something amazing and lead to something great in a very non-specific way at the time. But, like, you know, you aren't done. You aren't going to fail.
I think the exact phrase he uses is, "you will become a great hero."
Yes.
Which could mean a lot of things.
Uh-huh. And from there, you get a fun historical adventure centering on a group of children starting at age 9, and at the point of the manga I'm at, I think they're age 14.
Yeah, I mean, they're called children. They are, for the most part, indistinguishable from your usual teenage anime characters.
Yeah, and we'll talk more on that later. But the narrative follows a series of hyper-realized historical figures taking historical writing about them, which was often like hagiographic, or well, what we would call hagiographic, which is often like ostentatiously fictionalized. Like, they would talk about, warriors would write about their own accomplishments in a way that was lying, but exaggerating in a way that was believable.
They were at the very least sensationalized.
Yeah, they're the wrestling personas of their time.
Yeah.
And in the process, you get this story full of these larger-than-life, ridiculous samurai fiction characters fighting against a squad of terrorist children. And as an Animorphs fan, I'm always going to be here for a squad of terrorist children, especially ones fighting people with demonic parasites.
Yeah, good god, this anime is having such a good time.
Yeah.
Even if this was the only thing I got to watch this season, I would still have been really happy just because I enjoyed this so tremendously. As soon as we started watching this, it's so weird, it's so not what you would expect to come out of a studio in this particular time, in this particular season. I have this notion that this must have occurred because somebody just wanted to animate this so much, because it's also delivered with such a gorgeous flair. It looks spectacular.
Well, yes, and because it also has some of the ropiest 3D integration you're going to see all year.
I was going to say, except for some of the butt ugly CG.
But also, like, it very much has that feeling of an almost like a resource video game of like, well, I'm spending the resources here, so I'm saving them over here, and that's just how it's going to be. And the result is an anime that on the one hand has a lot of like very funny, wonky horse riding animation alongside just, look at this splash shot. This is a frame.
Yeah, it's actually from the show.
This isn't promo art. This is a shot from the show. This is in motion.
This isn't fully animated. This is like a, freeze for a moment and a beautiful special effect appears on it. But you gotta trust me when I say the animation leading up to this is also fucking spectacular.
Yeah.
They just really loved animating this kid flipping around and doing parkour shit. It's really fun.
Yep. It leads... The greatest story from the manga is excellent. I love it. I love all these characters. There are cool heroic moments. There are terrible monstrous moments. It is genuinely great stuff. And also, if you're buying the manga volumes, you'll find out that in the back there's a whole bunch of stuff from the author and the historians he consults with, which is where you get some wonderful conversations about things like, oh, yeah, like, this could absolutely... Like, what you've written here with these supernatural elements could have happened. Like, that is what they would represent as a reasonable representation of the history of the thing that actually happened at the time. That's how history was recorded at the time. It's a super interesting thing. It also includes, like, a whole treatise on, hey, there was a time when the Emperor of Japan released a public statement saying, by the way, I'm not a god, and everyone went, oh yeah, we believe you, JK lol.
That's what a god would say.
That's totally what a god would say. Which is just crackers to imagine. And what year do you think I'm talking about? 1946.
Wild.
The Emperor of Japan.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually, in the context of historical events happening around that time.
So, wonderfully informative about history, beautifully animated, great villain, great characters. Every single character you see in the openings and closings is in this as an amazing bozo. The closest you've got to non-characters are the three Miko in the opening playing the... I want to call them ouds, but they're not ouds.
No.
Playing the stringed instruments. But otherwise, it's genuinely really excellently done. And also, complicatedly, the main character is represented aesthetically in a way that is common to characters who are much older than him. The secondary character, the Myojin, who hangs around with him, looks, like an adult, right? Like an ordinary adult.
This guy looks like a very predictable 20-something anime guy.
Yeah,
and the kid looks like a very typical 14-something anime guy.
Yeah, except the Myojin is 65 and Hojo is 9.
Yeah.
And 5 years later in the manga, Hojo still looks the same. It is a complicated feeling because this is how anime renders characters that you are meant to think are hot.
Well, also, let's not kid ourselves. We haven't touched upon this yet, but this guy is a little freak.
He is a freak.
And
I love him so much.
Portrayed as... his enjoyment of the thrill of battle and being chased is portrayed in a way that, were he not 8, you would go, oh, that's very horny.
Yeah. It is one of those things where the visual language of anime that is normally used to represent arousal is used to represent the feelings of, again, a 9-year-old. And it is complicated because it is an extremely cool anime, but if you're not here for a blushing 9-year-old hugging an older man as he says, hey, you shouldn't have thrown me off that cliff, while looking at him like that, it's gonna leave, like, I can understand entirely if it leaves a foul taste in your mouth. But also, fun adventure manga where you get to watch a girl practicing, can I pop this guy's head off if I headlock him hard enough? And she does it too.
I also like that he is a little freak. It doesn't have to be a fetish level thing.
Yeah.
Even though
all the visual media you're used to in this space is communicating that it is a horny thing.
Well, and also YouTube shield of not actually talking about real life stuff.
Yeah.
But like, you know, some of us knew shit about ourselves at ages younger than that.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think this series is trying to be horny about it.
I don't think so.
Based on the manga. But the visual language that we are used to from other things makes it feel that way, which is... It's distinct from something like, for example, Violet Evergarden, where I pointed out that Violet Evergarden very much brought up age gaps, eh? Aren't they interesting? A lot. More than it needed to. In this case, it's just... No, I think that's how Cloverworks are going to make a character look excited.
I feel like Violet Evergarden... She was suspiciously a child. This guy is reluctantly a child. Like, we had certain dates... So we're just gonna say that this character, as we wish to depict him, fits those dates.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel skeevy to me.
Yeah, and like the overall, like you should read the manga. Like,
oh, I'm going to.
Sorry, generically, the listener.
One listener. The hypothetical you.
I think that, I know I've talked about not getting sucked into a long hauler. This is a long hauler. It's not done yet. It's really quite good. We know historically the ending's gonna be a bit of a bummer because we know how Hojo Togiyuki's story ends. But maybe it doesn't end that way in the manga, because also, I don't think the real-world historical events had a samurai who was so giant he had to ride 2 horses at once and threw soldiers as arrows.
Probably not. Or a magical guy with an anthill in his chest.
This manga rules.
Also... Opening, impeccable banger.
Absolute banger.
Closing,
better banger.
Substantially better banger.
It's shocking. 2 of the best songs of the year in anime, same show.
Such a good fucking time. Would listen to that over and over again.
And what makes it even wilder is that the ending song isn't made for this anime.
It's not?
It's not. It's an existing Karakura tourism song.
Oh, that's why it gives the vibe of being like a joint tourist project.
Yeah, but it mentions all the characters who are in the Elusive Samurai, and if you go to the official YouTube channel of Karakura Prefecture, you'll find that song with a different video clip.
Kamakura?
Yeah, Kamakura,
yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, yeah, Elusive
Not
Samurai.
Said for the sake of correcting you, but just in case someone was actually going to look it up based on that.
Oh, they're not going to look it up. No one ever looks at anything I say up.
Prove him wrong, listeners. Get him.
I get corrected on making mistakes about Silverhawks and nothing else.
Also, I guess, slight content warning-y for animal cruelty, but don't worry, that dog is a trained actor, as the anime will point out.
The anime not only points out that the animal getting hurt is a trained actor, but there is also a shot of a character who can see the future going, oh my god, in the future when they make an anime out of this, everyone's going to say, that's really fucked up.
I love when a show sees me coming, and that one really got me.
There's a point in the manga where Hojo has to take a moment to reflect before saying something important about what would the men in my life who have set examples for me do in this situation.
Oh no, that's terrible.
And he gets this mental image. It's a full-page shot of just all the different assholes and jerks he knows and what terrible ideas they would have. And him at the bottom of the panel with the giant bug eyes just going, everyone I know is a weirdo!
Yeah.
Such a good show. Shall we?
Yeah.
Shoshimin. How to Become Ordinary.
Shoshimin series.
So here we have part 2 of the good anime of this season.
Boy, I did not know what to think going into this.
Yep, it's, to call it a slow boil is to make it sound more exciting than it is. This whole thing is the story that would normally be covered in 1-2-parter, paced out to 8 episodes.
And somehow that doesn't suck.
Don't get me wrong, it was touch and go in the first 2 episodes. I almost tapped out. And then the fact that one of the characters is a weird little freak came out.
They're both weird little freaks, but one of them is much more of a freak than you were expecting.
Well, the thing is, as it starts out, character A, obviously a freak. Character B, obviously a freak. Then the revelation is that actually, character B is a very different kind of freak.
Yeah, it's
and
real
I am
good.
suddenly here for this. What are we looking at here, Fox? What's this story about?
Okay, so you know how there's a genre of detective boy in Japan?
Yeah.
A precocious young schoolboy solving mysteries.
You cone him up.
Showing the adults how to do it. And this is like that if that guy, when he was like 10-ish, decided that everyone hated him for that. So he was going to instead learn to be very normal about everything. To just have a normal brain and to make sure he didn't do anything not normal from now on so people would not be upset by him. He can't fucking do that because he's a little freak.
He's a little freak.
Because there's a mystery, Talen, and the mystery needs solving.
The mystery of how did he mix 3 hot chocolates without getting the sink dirty?
You don't understand. There were only 2 cups.
Ba-na-ba-na.
Yeah, and then about halfway through, you find it's actually more about how the incredibly soft-spoken girl, who we know is also normal brain, she's clearly a neurotic type A overachiever, whose decision to be normal is more about, like, not
killing someone.
Well, that is the big reveal,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Turns out she's a little freak too, but in a much more exciting way.
These 2 are both freaks. One of them has a knife.
It's so fucking delightful. I've said previously in these reviews that my favorite anime genre these days is very normal brain, and this is very normal brain, the series.
Yeah.
And it is a delight just to keep uncovering layers of these characters and how their excellent little neuroatypical brains work. They're so good.
The end of the anime is slightly disappointing, but again, if I didn't like anime with bad endings, I wouldn't like much anime.
I understand that's also cutting out in the middle of a novel series, yes?
Yeah, it's a novel series, and this is 2 of the novels being adapted together into one series, which, like, there's more of it after and there's more of it beforehand, so, like, this is very much a snapshot, and so they were trying for an ending that could be an ending all of its own, which, like, I'm not wild about it, but obviously you're not going to have, and then they got a van and went and solved mysteries with a knife.
And you can't really tonally have it end on, and he just thinks all that is great, actually, and not creepy at all, because we all know it's great.
Yeah, but he's trying to be ordinary.
Yes.
So, yeah. You good?
Yeah. I feel like we've done this a disservice by not talking about it as long as we did Elusive Samurai, but I mean, it's also a mystery series, so we don't want to give too much away.
I'm trying to
just go check it out. It's really good. Go check it out.
Also, I guess I haven't really given enough attention to the fact that it's also quite beautiful.
Oh, yeah. So I should have ranted on that for a bit. This is fucking gorgeous. God, people's eyes in this series. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
You thought off-color highlights were a cool new technology? Everyone's eye is like a full-on sunset worth of color gradient.
Yep.
They're so detailed, and all the, like, contemplative city shots are so intricate and over-detailed and, like, not hyper-realistic, like you wouldn't mistake them for being photos, but just rendered with so much rendered obsessively, as if the person whose vision we are being invited to share might have acute attention to detail as a major character trait.
Yeah.
It's so thoughtful and so fitting for how the story is done.
The story also builds on something from the perspective of a magician, which is there are certain problems with when people understand your ability to manipulate control attention, which is to say it's very easy to do things that destroy people's ability to treat you with trust, and that means any performance in that space has to be done carefully. One of the enduring lines about magicians is that it's not that second deals are hard, it's that you have to make every deal look like a second deal. You're doing things to hide the tricks you do, and that means a lot of your normal behavior now has to be adjusted to match that. And that's all a thing that rings through this series for me, where this is a guy who has dedicated enormous amounts of effort to trying to do something so it looks effortless. But what he's trying to do is be a normal person. And I understand and relate to that. And it comes with a burden of, like, if you can cold read people, if you can do even vague sleight of hand, there are people who will be terrified of you.
Oh, sure.
And like, this is the story of, like, what if I discovered my abilities to cold read or manipulate in, say, 6th grade, and found out that instead of making me a cool guy with a cool trick I could do, made me an asshole everyone hates. Encyclopedia brown-noser, as it were. And, I think it does a really good job of touching on that experience, but also, it's not as interesting to me because he's not the kind of weird little freak I like. He's just a different kind of weird little freak that's more like me.
Sure, but she is.
Yeah, she's a great weird little freak. Anyway, speaking of those weird little freaks, Mayonaka Punch!
Oh, yes, so it is. It's just Mayonaka Punch.
Yep. You're not gonna give us a stylized
My
Maya
job
Punch?
isn't to translate.
Yeah. Mayonaka meaning midnight. Yeah, so, the premise of Mayonaka Punch is a disgraced YouTuber fleeing from her cohort, decides to try and record some solo content in an abandoned, spooky hospital, whereupon she almost gets eaten by a vampire and hits upon the bright idea of, hey, what if I bargain my blood to this vampire in exchange for letting me continue doing the extremely mid job of being a YouTuber. From there you get a series of episodes that are comedically about vampires doing YouTuber stuff. And I mean, like, very specifically Japanese YouTuber stuff, which is to say cute girls chasing various trends in a way that sucks shit.
It is quite interesting to me, because while I enjoyed this show a lot, the YouTube videos they make are awful.
I wouldn't watch it.
Just the absolute worst.
Yeah, and it is straight up just like, we are going to churn. It is the content churn. It is the daytime reality TV of the type of media it is. None of these characters are being selected for their inner lives or their characterization. This is a YouTube channel that lives and dies on 3 instances of different types of girl hot. And there is some interesting stuff under the hood. They do talk about some pretty cool stuff about things like what the grind is like, what the comment section is like, how you integrate new people into this kind of content feed. But also, these characters are absolute bimbos.
Massive bozos.
Yeah.
That's why it's fun. You kind of buried the lead, which is that the vampire whose blood the vampire to whom she is bargaining her blood is, like, gay as fuck for her specifically.
Yeah.
Like, obsessed with her.
It in fact is the vampire fiction fantasy of what if there was someone incredibly dangerous who wanted to consume me, but in a way that was cool and hot.
But also, she's a giant fucking bozo.
Yep. Live
because
is a
holy
big bozo.
shit, these are just the most bozo vampires you've ever met.
Most appearances of a vape pen in an anime for me so far.
Ugh, yeah, I could have done without that.
There is a story around the green-haired one that I think is just genuinely heartfelt and sweet, and a good piece of vampire fiction. Like, it lets you do something with that time gap.
We have somehow avoided being either the, like, desperately edgy, incredibly tired version of vampires, or the, like, modernized, completely just a sex object vampires.
Yeah.
Found something interesting to be in the middle, which is
an
pretty
X-Men.
cool.
You know, like, I'm not actually stopped by any of the things that would stop a vampire.
Yeah, I mean, vampire in blood only, really.
Why are you a disgraced YouTuber? What are the things that are acceptable for women to do? How are women expected to be? How do you grapple with having a public persona that isn't under your control? Lots of interesting stuff there. It's not as thoughtful about being a YouTuber as, say, Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night, which we talked about previously. But it's better than a lot of the other ones I've seen, especially a lot of the ones that are about idols and VTubers. Like, it's got some solidity there.
It, particularly in how it addresses creation of content, I really enjoyed how it engaged with that. Like, there's a lot of real shit there.
Yeah, like, there's a schedule. We are doing the schedule.
The only way in which it's not realistic is that when it comes down to what the people in the community of making that media are like, it's positively utopian.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of chances for them to screw one another over, and you're like, oh, is this the time when they're going to find out that this person, in fact, has it in for them? But, like, turns out everybody's just kind of nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's YouTuber anime in that very specific way of we are people who like YouTubers and therefore believe the narrative of YouTubers.
Yeah, I guess if it has a flaw, it's that it thinks too highly of YouTube.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's also a lot of, like, yeah, people are shit garbage in comments, aren't they? How about that?
I mean, it could be worse.
We literally have our main character's thoughts, like, manifesting to torment her.
Yeah, which is a good visual language.
Yeah. Well, yes, I guess we don't literally have... I mean, it's ambiguous. I assume it's a metaphor.
I assume it's a metaphor, too. Yeah. These 5 vampires are perfectly fun characters. I like a lot of the gimmicks. It's a comedy and it made me laugh a bunch. And when it tried to do something clever, I was deeply unimpressed because it's not that smart. But, like, it's fun.
I'm surprised and pleased that they didn't do anything horny with the vampire who looks like a little girl. Because usually when you see a vampire who looks like a little girl in an anime, you're like, well, I know why you're here.
T minus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's one of the best ones of the season.
Yeah. This was a great time with a fun ending and a lot of dumb shenanigans. I would happily watch it again if I ever rewatched anything.
Next up, we have Too Many Losing Heroes, which is an alright manga.
That clearly says heroines.
What did I say?
Heroes.
Nah. I don't see
Heroines?
gendered language, Talen. Why did I call you Talen?
I don't know. I think you're very confused right now. I'm just gonna say, make heroine ga osugiru. And leave it at that.
Yeah, the premise of this one is a guy who reads a lot of rom-com manga, notices the other girls in a lot of other rom-com stories in his own life, who the loser heroines, the ones who are there to not get the boy because the other girl gets the boy. And he makes friends with a bunch of them, and it's very horny. I haven't watched the anime, I've read the manga and flipped through it. It's funnier and smarter than you would expect.
It also looks way better than you would expect.
Yeah.
Like, I was impressed by the production quality of this when it feels like something that would get a real bargain basement kind of treatment.
Well, yeah, this is a bozo rom-com anime. This is the place where we get, like, Gohans shitting out the girl who likes me lost her glasses. Like, this isn't a particularly challenging format to work with, but it does actually bother to put some effort in. It is a weird, horny series. It's about high schoolers in a weird, horny way. There is a sex criminal nurse in it, but through all that, there are times where the characters talk to one another in a way that makes me specifically go, oh, yeah, someone's thinking about this. These are characters with a degree of an inner life, and they have conflicts inside themselves that make what they're about to say hard, rather than just what will get us to the next scene. So, yeah, I don't go out of my way to recommend it. It's perfectly nice to breeze through a volume in an afternoon and forget about it for a month.
Having now seen these covers, I want to add, I fucking hate that they have 4 twee little bows on the front of their uniforms. Gross.
Oh god, they do, don't
Hate
they?
it. Can't stand it.
Wow. I should probably know why they have that. That seems very specific.
That seems like a weird thing to see. I don't know. I don't care for it.
Well, I should remember that. Like, I'm pretty sure that comes up. But with that, however, we have hit the limit of everything we even thought about looking at
Wow.
from 2024.
Everything we even bothered to get one episode of, huh?
I mean, in this season, there's a whole extra season coming at the end. But,
Oh, it was a little dry for us.
yep. So we solved that by going back in time and finding other anime that we hadn't watched yet that we're now going to look at, which are now in the category of ringers.
Bonus round.
All right. And the funny thing is, we probably won't have any ringers for the next episode, because the next episode is going to be about the fall season, which is at least one thing I want to talk about. So,
Also, we kind of used up everything from the last 5 years that we had any interest in. Like, we went back a pretty long ways.
yeah, we went back to 2021 for Deji Meets Girl. Why did we go back to Deji Meets Girl? Why is this the first one that comes up? I don't know.
Because I saw stills from it, and I was like, this looks beautiful. I want to know what's up with this. And then realized when we started watching it that this is 5-minute episodes, is it? 6?
The reason this looks like this is because when you're making shorts,
Yeah.
you can make them look amazing.
You also don't have too much time for anything to happen, so we're just fucking gunning it.
Yep, there are 8 5-minute episodes of the story of Deji Meets Girl, which is to say, a short movie. And, it's nice. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, it is exactly what it looks like. It's a everyday Okinawa girl and a fancy boy from the big city staying at the hotel her family runs. And then weird shit happens for reasons which remain unspecified.
Well, they're probably unspecified because to you and me, they seem like they need explanation, whereas I suspect they're all just like, these are Okinawan traditions. You just know about the local spooky stuff.
Yeah, but there's like some kind of weird, his spirit is restless for reasons or something, and therefore weird shit happens around him or something. Probably.
It's answered in the last episode. Probably.
Yeah, not getting a concrete answer is part of the appeal, because the show is also, it's fundamentally just about these two kind of vibing and, sticking up for each other despite having just met 3 seconds ago.
Uh-huh.
It's very cute, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, aesthetically, animation-wise, just check it out. Like, you're not going to hurt anything by watching this.
And it'll take you 20 minutes.
Then there's Sabakui Bisco.
It's fucking rules!
2022 Sabakui Bisco, which is otherwise known as...
Sabakui Bisco.
I see.
I'm not doing it.
Okay. Also known to its Japanese audience as Rust Eater Bisco. This is a post-apocalyptic Japanese science fantasy meat punk future where people are using animals and mushrooms and outsized robotic mutants to do things in a period of history where it seems that computers are kind of like a done deal.
It's a very mechanical world.
Yeah. And our central characters are Bisco and Panda, whose name I can't remember, but they call him Panda, and that's the thing that sticks with me. He's a outcast rebel and member of the Mushroom Keepers with a bow and arrow. He's a hot doctor with a hot sister who everyone wants to jump. Together, they fight the fascist government that is itself a crime.
I can't believe I missed this when it was new, because look how hot they are.
This is a amazing show to feel, as someone who lived through the 90s, this looks and feels like 90s anime feels in your memory. Like, if you go back and rewatch a bunch of 90s anime, it's like, oh, this was really badly paced, wasn't it? This is kind of mid-looking. I'm remembering posters. I'm not remembering how the actual show looked. Whereas this is, because it's being made in 2022 with 2022 budgets and 2022 technology, it gets to look fucking incredible. And also, high-impact action scenes. Like, it looks like a movie from the 90s, and it's a whole series. The characters are all hot.
Preposterously hot.
Everyone wants to fuck Bisco.
Preposterously queer.
There is a crab that is jealous of people who want to fuck Bisco. the world building is extremely thorough on the ideas of building on the rust of our own society. There's an environmental message. There's a throughput of how people are exploited.
Yes, nukes might be very, very bad.
Turns out nuclear weapons are bad. If you liked the Nausicaa manga, but wished that it had more...
Full of extremely not beating the allegations, hot boys, and just absolutely unnecessarily big tits.
Look, if you want a Nadeshko that fucks, if you want a slightly dumber version of Nausicaa that fucks,
yeah,
that's what you're getting here.
Yeah, hell yeah, I do.
And that's not to impeach Nausicaa at all. This is a very different beast.
Love Nausicaa, but this fucks.
Same genre of same kind of thing as to what Nausicaa is. That same alt history, how do we accommodate a wildly different environment? Nukes are very bad. There are giant robots buried in the backyard kind of thing.
But evil government propagandizes against nature, even though nature is trying to fix this shit.
Yeah. But, vividly thoughtful about the ideas of central control, government, and the infestation of identity. Really good show. I liked it a lot. These boys fuck.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
And you might be the kind of person who's used to hearing me talk about manga and anime in this way of these two boys are in the same room at the same time, so other people like to say that they fuck, but I prefer something with more substance. I, the person who is against that kind of stuff, am saying these boys are in love with each other. This is not me interpreting. This is text. If the characters in Madoka are in love, these boys are in love.
Look, you have your chance to use an ambiguous phrase like ski when you want to confess your feelings to another boy. And if you instead say aishiteru, you meant it.
Yep. And also, in the manga, his sister wants some too.
Oh, in the anime, his sister wants some too.
True bisexual win. Two different characters want to bone this guy, and they're both hot.
They share too.
Yep,
this anime is a threesome waiting to happen.
This is a wonderfully indulgent, weird, high-octane action anime that was clearly made by... there's a version of me that would have made this.
That's probably why it feels so very 90s to us, because we're like, oh my god, teenage me would have been all fucking about this.
I would have redrawn Bisco with prettier eyes so many times.
He has kind of pretty eyes, though. Not in that shot.
Not in that shot.
But that's his battle face. He's trying to scare you.
Yep. Also, if you read the novels, Bisco constantly talks about how hot Panda is. It is a constant part of the description of, him with his stupid, beautiful hair, or he woke up, and had to wipe those big, stupid, beautiful eyes of his. It is regular. And also, these boys get tied to each other so many times.
An author after my own heart.
And also our main character suplexes a hippo. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're excited, you're happy, we enjoyed that, we're holding on to that feeling.
Yeah, that was great.
Next up we have Carol and Tuesday.
Ah, fuck, man. I forgot that was in this batch.
Yep, we watched all of this. We watched all of this.
I don't know if it's just sunk cost fallacy, but after a certain point, I felt like I had to finish it.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't judge it unless I'd seen all of it.
Yeah, I think I said something to the same effect of I don't like this, I'm not going to enjoy this, but I want to make sure I'm being as fair as I can be when I make fun of it. This is Carol and Tuesday, a series set in the Cowboy Bebop universe before the events of Bebop, on Mars, where political unrest and climate catastrophe frame the ongoing story of Carol, a young lady who's from the streets, and Tuesday, a posh girl from a rich family, try to make what we'll generously call a band.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call this one an idol anime.
Thanks, Talen. Though we do get an idol show, which is funny.
Yeah.
The version of this that I feel like we're meant to think, like the version that's written on the back of the box kind of thing, is
The posters.
that these are like two women who share a love for music that they can't bear not to follow, even when the rest of the world seems intent on preventing them from just getting through their lives, making the music they care so much about with the friend they care so much for.
Uh-huh.
But the show is really bad at making me feel that.
This show has an obvious structure implied by its pitch and its premise, and that was all you need to do, all you need to deliver on to make a show worth watching. And instead, in what I imagine is an attempt to elevate that pitch, the show gives a story that keeps adding extra elements, none of which are informed by or helped by that pitch, and which means instead of what this poster very clearly communicates to you should be happening in this show, never happens, and instead what we get is mostly an anime maker's vision of what it might be like to work in the music industry as informed by watching other shows about the music industry.
Yeah, like it was a bad choice to watch this after Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night in particular, because that's using, like, Jellyfish is all about people using the technology we have now to ignore the corporate industry structure and create something which is true to their artistic vision, even if that means they have to do everything themselves, develop all the skills on their own, find friends who can do the things that they need done without going through the industry insider, oh, I know a guy kind of channels. And that's, like, I thought this was gonna be about two people busking, right? Like,
what, like the cover, like this?
yeah, like exactly what's in this picture.
Yeah,
I
this
thought,
never happens.
The pitch that we get given for this is like, this is in the future everyone's songs are just written by AI or whatever, and this is about two people deciding to make real music again. And I thought that was gonna be, doing exactly that, meeting each other and sharing ideas and writing songs together. And instead we get, like, they sing together, like, a couple of times. They do busk very briefly in the first episode before they're chased away by a cop.
Yep.
But they never try and do that again.
There's a single instance of them performing on the street, but it's for a particular person. It's not busking. And these people's way of writing music is represented by them trying to storyboard a song with words. This is, like...
They instantly get picked up by a former musician turned manager who is an old industry insider who has a bunch of contacts and everything, who's just immediately like, you guys need to be brought into the industry structure and have a manager and everything. What can we do to make you popular? And they go through all this shit about, like, oh, we gotta try and book a gig, we gotta try and make a music video, we gotta try and go viral. And then, like, 6 episodes in, they're like, oh, we probably need to write a song, huh?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fucking fuck?
Yeah,
How have you not been writing songs together that you've been living together for like 3 weeks at this point?
Yeah,
what have you been doing? Are you not jamming? Dost thou not jam?
And no, they don't, because these aren't musicians.
They don't.
These aren't people whose art is something that escapes them. The frustrating thing is they show one scene of them jamming together at a laundry.
I love the laundromat scene. That's so good. I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is what I came for. More of this.
Yep. But after that point, you get an extremely ham-fisted attempt to try and tell stories about immigration and racism as written by a bunch of people who, based on this anime, I have to assume are racists and also liberals, so they don't think they're racist. And the nature of the whole show is much more about, we had to take advantage of our one opportunity, our one chance that we got as part of a chain of like 30 chances where we randomly made friends with this guy who was randomly friends with that guy who was also friends with these 12 other massive industry connections. And this is all the plot of Carol and Tuesday. And I bring this up to bag on it isolated. Isolated from the fact that when this show tries to represent any kind of musician who is not this kind of pressed, flat, approachable, marketable product, it shits on them.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up. Because we're led to believe, based on meeting Carol and Tuesday, that like there aren't people in the music industry sort of doing something authentic anymore. That it's... that you might imagine it's kind of something like we might feel like we have today, with just a lot of pre-made products and a lot of like studio designed whatever, and no real artists making real art, which I'm not saying actually is the state we have today. But
imagine if there was a machine that every artist was singing into, that was correcting for all of their mistakes and making their performances perfect.
Yeah,
you imagine that? Because that's a real thing that really exists.
They're going to develop that technology in the future in Carol and Tuesday.
And in Carol and Tuesday, they have one of those machines, and you have to sit in it, and it punches your voice box. Because it's the dumbest version of sci-fi. You know good sci-fi, because sci-fi is typically looking at the science of its day, and with an awareness of what science tells them, making predictions about possible futures. Whereas this is unaware of technology that when it was made was 20 years old and industry standard.
Yeah.
So while there is some vague insightfulness of like, oh wow, in the future we'll have major DJs who make all their music with AI, they won't perform live. They won't. That won't be how that gets done. What will happen is it will get pumped down into a chart because you don't need an individual anymore. This whole vision of the science fiction element is the science fiction of 1980, not the science fiction of now.
Which I guess kind of fits with the Cowboy Bebop universe, but also feels very short-sighted.
Cowboy Bebop had a better vision of its future in 1997 than this does of its now. Cowboy Bebop did imagine a punkier, chunkier, technical, mechanical future. But also, part of that was, hey, we had a whole bunch of computer apocalypses. Interfaces need to have plugs on them so you can yank them out of the wall before things go wrong. I get that. In Carol and Tuesday, you have that top layer of they don't know what they're fucking talking about for musicians. Then you have the layer below that, which is they don't know what they're fucking talking about when it comes to the way the music industry works. And then you have the new bottom layer, the worst layer, which is they don't know what they're fucking talking about with non-white people. This anime brings up non-white artists, and they are either subordinate supporters to the story of Carol and Tuesday, who are there to inspiringly fail, or they are the best performers in the whole show that the show shits on. There is a band called Galactic Mermaid, who are, for lack of a better way of describing this, because the show sure as shit does a bad job, a bunch of very queer, probably trans, multi-gendered black people who do a barbershop quartet song called Galactic Mermaid. It's the best song in the show. It's the only one that lasts in my memory. It's very fun. And then the show is like, wow, that sucked. Let's stop you before you finish doing this great song. And now Fox is going to correct my pronunciation on something.
Oh, no. I did think they were called Mermaid Sisters, not Galactic Mermaid, but I'm not the one who looked it up after the show.
Actually,
so
yeah, you're right.
Entirely possible.
I think it's the Mermaid Sisters, and the song is Galactic Mermaid. You're right.
Which is also leaning it, like, not at all, leading you away from imagining that they are, like, 6 trans women.
Yep.
But, yeah, this is where I was going with the discussion about, like, they set up a scenario where they're saying that no one is making real authentic music the way that they wish to from their heart anymore.
And then they flush people who do.
Yeah, because their idea of what to do with these characters after the dumbass idea about going viral and the dumbass idea about the music video and all that shit, instead of just going, why don't you make some fucking music together for a while and see if people vibe with it, the next thing they decide to do is put them on American Idol, or, well, Mars Idol, but, I mean, it's the same fucking thing.
Do you not have pubs? Do you not have small venues?
They do not, apparently.
Do you not have music clubs? How is Bocce the Rock?
They do that. They played there one time and treated it like it didn't matter.
Yeah, because they don't like it, because it's not important, because that's
actually
the thing
performing
you do on the
music
list.
for people is not something that they're interested in as artists. They would rather be on a fucking awards competition show against a bunch of people who are, whether they are good or not, undeniably making the weird, non-corporate, non-polished, non-generative music that they want to make.
And
not
winner?
just the Mermaid Sisters, but another, like, weird sort of, kind of like a Black Bjork type.
Yep.
Who's like, you know, I have the voice of the universe kind of weirdo. And just an incredibly sugary YouTube boy who just wants to have a poppy good time, but has, like, legit worked really hard on his dancing and shit because that's what he enjoys.
A black opera singer guy?
An extremely horny, non-binary.
Do you mean the psycho lesbian?
Well, yeah. I mean,
That's the genre.
yeah.
Sorry.
Let's not kid ourselves because that's who this character turns out to be.
That's the trope. Guess what? We're going to include actual queerness in this story, and she's a dangerous threat who cannot be trusted because she doesn't understand boundaries.
It's gross.
This is a show that uses its marketing and its premise to promote the idea that, hey, get a load of this, you're going to watch a queer anime about a pair of queer girls, and they're going to make music, and none of that is true, and the people who make music, and the actual queers, and the actual women in the story are all there to be shit on.
And what this is all leading up to, after making it very clear that Carol and Tuesday's worth as artists is to be directly measured by their commercial success, is that they're going to save Mars from a racist dictatorship by getting all the wealthiest and most successful people in the music industry together to do essentially feed the world.
Are the world.
Yeah, like they're gonna do We Are the World. It's supposed to be an event of cross-genre music collaboration so profound that it brings the world to its knees with its beauty and purity of message, and it's just a fucking stunt song.
Yep. Hey, Fox, can you hum any of it?
No, God, no. Oh, hang on. No, I can sort of remember how it goes.
Don't have to.
You're saying I should do it right now?
No, you don't have to. My point is that, like, this is a show about music where I can think of two songs that have any lasting memory, and one of them is lasting because despite the fact that they got English singers to sing the song in English, the grammar is all Japanese writer writing English lyrics,
Yeah.
which makes it sound like gibberish.
A lot of it sounds really weird. Or just like,
There's
like
so
a
much...
basic sort of non-poetic kind of phrasing that would get sent back for a second draft kind of thing, which, like, I feel bad shitting on that because I'm essentially making fun of someone writing in their second language, but that's not my intent. What I mean is it fails to present what it would need to as an English song.
Carol and Tuesday has all the authenticity money can buy.
That's a very good description. There's bits and pieces to love here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Mermaid Sisters.
And I liked the antagonist or possibly deuteragonist arc of their rival Angela, who's extremely just getting Ariana Grande through this whole thing.
Yeah. The one who gets punched in the voice box by the not auto-tune machine.
Oh god, and we didn't even talk about her mom, who is...
Yep, left that one on the floor.
Yeah, short version,
Space hormones.
her manager is generally known as... Well, I mean, is identified as her mother, who is a very fat... Mars makes you trans,
Yep.
I think is the general pitch that's part of this universe.
Yep.
But a really fat trans woman who is first portrayed very unfavorably and then humanized a lot, and you start to think maybe the show does have more of a thought in its head about what to do with a character who is representing just a lot of marginalized axes at the moment, and just in time to ruin that thought, you have her reveal that she is like a rageaholic who shouldn't be trusted around her daughter, and then fucking dies.
Yep, go be fat and evil somewhere else.
So depressing.
And I have no doubt that everyone who worked on this worked as hard as they could. It's just the whole project sucks.
Roddy's good. I like
Roddy's
Roddy.
a sweet boy. He doesn't belong here. And also, he tolerates 2 complete shitheads in his friend group.
Oh god, we haven't talked about their producer.
Yep.
The fucking ringer that they bring in because he's like, oh, he's an eccentric genius. You know what eccentric genius usually means when it's said of somebody who's established in the industry? A fucking asshole. And that's what it means here too. This guy is just an abusive bastard.
Yep.
But, thank goodness he's here. Thank goodness you had that connection to an old industry pro, Mr. Manager, because how could we not have gotten our album done without this idiot who thinks it's a great idea to use an empty house as a recording studio? Because he'll master it. He's just that impressive.
It's almost like the thing that these people are representing is not music, something anyone can make anywhere and share in live performances, but instead some kind of product that has to be run through a large industry system and then distributed.
The real thing about this is that if you know anything about producing music or writing music or like performing, it's gonna make you angry a lot of the time.
Yeah. Or anything about how music is produced, or the technology of audio, or the way talent is cultivated.
I did start by saying music production.
But like, even broader. Like, just if you know anything about any of the technologies, or the people, or the kinds of things this anime ostensibly is meant to be about, you'll go, oh, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. It is a whole anime that has an imagined use of a premise that it has nothing to do with, because the people who made it didn't care. It does not feel like the work of a story about music. This feels like an anime about making anime. And the metaphor for making anime is making music, in much the same way that so many writers will write chefs. Because you see, chefs are assholes, but you have to trust them to finish the work. Like, you've got to let them finish. You've got to let them cook.
Let them cook.
Yeah, and you notice how they walk over and like, see, is this good? Is this good? Is it like a scriptwriter might say, like, hey, is this passage good? You want to check this out? Like, yes, you see, there's this, like, oh, yes, the chef and the scriptwriter are both really quite similar, and the chef is really good, so maybe the screenwriter who wrote the chef being really good is also really good, and you should tolerate the screenwriter being a bit of a...
Thank you, Brad Bird, I get it.
We done?
I think we're done with this.
Denocoil.
This is something I picked up originally when it released.
2007.
Yeah, this is well an oldie. Really beautifully done for its time, I have to say. Like, this has a love of animation that is very evident still today.
Really thoughtful use of ARG. Almost like a good piece of science fiction that could anticipate what the future would hold.
Yes, this is actually thinking ahead of its time in a way that really bears out.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I still don't know whether I'm going to watch any more of it, because it did remind me that the reason I dropped it after the first episode originally is because they do also have just a lot of a toddler tormenting a dog.
Yep.
And apparently the dog torment is a big ongoing theme of the series. So...
Yep. Could be a cool show.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it. You good?
Yeah. I don't think I have anything fair to say about it beyond that.
Speaking of things to say about it, recovery of an MMO junkie.
Netju no Susume.
Yeah. This show kind of rules. It's good in a lot of ways. It could be great. It's not. But, like, I talked about how there are other anime which could be improved by just, like, cutting a bunch of stuff out. You can't really do that here. This series very much is like, well, we've got 11 episodes worth of stuff. We're just going to do 11 episodes. And I like that. I like that a lot.
In fact, I like that they had the restraint to only do the number of episodes that they wanted to pace the plot for, and then just put in some extra dumb junk at the end.
Yeah, there are ideas in construct. Oh, yeah. Sorry. So we have our main character, a so-called super neat, someone who made her money in the corporate world, then dropped out of work to have a life of playing video games for several hours. She fucking rules. And then she meets someone in a video game and winds up catching the very strange kind of distanced feels that come from spending 8 hours with a person of a day and then imagining afterwards of like, oh, well, that doesn't count as socializing, right? And the ensuing coincidences and intentionalities that lead to them finding out that they are close enough to each other to have a real relationship, like a tangible relationship, and also that they in fact have been playing characters of the opposite gender each. So he's playing a hot girl, and she's playing a hot boy, and there is a layer of queerness that this series could be doing stuff with, and doesn't. But, like...
It doesn't engage with it as much as I would like it to, but it also doesn't completely brush it off either. Like, it does lampshade it a little bit. It's aware that it exists.
Your reach should not exceed your grasp. And in this case, they looked at that further point and decided not to do anything with it. They had characters hinted at the edges, because you have a character who is quite clearly a hot girl playing a hot boy, and doing it for reasons, but that's its own... That's something this series doesn't dwell on. It's just like, oh, there's... If you've played an MMO, you know this character, you know what they're like, we're just moving on from that. And otherwise than that, it is a really pleasantly competent video game anime that doesn't involve making nonsense happen in any of it. Like, the biggest constraint this thing has is that everyone in this MMO happens to live within a block of each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, beyond the basic nonsense of just, like, the tremendous coincidence of everyone you met in this game lives around you. But, whatever.
And there's, like, some degree of sorting mechanism there of, like, well, you're all at similar playtimes, you're at least in a similar time zone, but that's not going to sort you into a single block.
Actually, not everyone, I guess. The fat warrior character and the hot elf boy.
Yeah.
Are not at any point revealed to be human characters that we've met in the real world.
Yeah, we don't know.
Who knows who they are?
Yep.
Wonderful. Aside from the fact that they're apparently married, because at one point one of them logs in as the other, and someone's like, "That's fucking weird, don't do that."
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. Which leads me to, like, the other thing I really enjoyed about this show, which is that it does more with actually being in an MMO than most of these shows do. Like, having your friends pull shit on you when you go idle by accident.
Yeah, surrounding you with plates.
Yeah, like spelling out words.
And that's the thing that, like... That's the thing that stands out to me, in that it has a better sense of what it is like to actually live and play in an MMO than most of the other things in this genre.
Yeah.
Which...
And, like, it's still, you know, it's still very much abstracted for the sake of being entertained to watch. Like, it's still animated as if the characters have complete freedom of movement and, you know, are chatting together all the time and doing cool shit.
But they do occasionally give you moments of showing the abstraction. Like, there are points where you watch as a character says something in the animated, like, reality of the fiction, and then there's a shot of the person playing the computer.
Yeah.
And over their shoulder, you can see the actual figures standing or sitting in a tree, and the chat window showing what they actually said. And the realization that... And then they play with the fact that, oh, that's an ambiguous thing, because there's no tone attached to it. Yeah. And that's a pretty cool use of your premise.
Yeah, it's actually thinking about what it means to be a character in an MMO within the fiction and without the fiction, which is a second thought in its head that a lot of this type of show doesn't really have.
Yep. And a normie plays the game and gets involved with it in a way that... Like, normally, another lesser anime would spend a whole bunch of time going, oh, well, this is the thing we have to comment on and explain, and this show does not. Like, nope. nope, there is a reason, like, he is very obviously about why he is doing this. This is great. No one cares.
I'm not going to talk about why I love that.
Yeah.
But anyone who has been paying attention to anything about what I enjoy so far will know why.
So...
I will say, it does live slightly in the Horimiya shitter.
Yes.
Which is to say, I'm fucking mad at it for cutting an important character's hair in a way that I find much less hot.
Yeah.
Look at this shaggy gremlin. How dare you cut that off and make it neat and pluck her eyebrows and stuff. Leave her alone, she's perfect.
She is pretty much perfect, and then the show does have her do things that are like, well, now I've got my life slightly in order, I will represent this by being more conventionally normal.
Mm-hmm. And it is presented as being like an improvement objectively, when really she was doing fine. Like,
yeah,
if you can still financially support yourself, why the fuck should you be working a thankless office job where you come home at 3 a.m?
Yeah,
that's she's winning.
Yep, she is just right.
I don't know why she can financially support herself, but apparently she can. So who the fuck else's business is it?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Liked this show a lot. Think it didn't overreach its premise. There are ways you could do the same thing better. There are doors it could open that, like, for example, .hack opened 20 years ago. But, you know, good show. I liked it. You ready for the, Now, that's a lot of happy jollies out of the way, Fox. You ready for things to get a little
What
dark?
a good time. What are we doing next?
Erased.
Oh my god. I'm so glad I went back for this.
Yeah, this was 2018's adaptation of the manga Erased. AKA?
AKA Boku Dake ga Inai Machi.
Which is?
The town where only I am missing. And you're right, I am a little cross that they gave that one a simple title in English, because there's something really fucking chilling about the original title, and it is a reference in the show itself as well to something really important that takes on an extra meaning.
So, up front, this is a time loop mystery thriller with a famously controversial ending that is an adaptation of a much longer manga. I don't want to talk about spoilers here, especially because a lot of the stuff that's just in this series is heavy as hell. So I'm not going to elaborate on the plot beyond the premise, which is our protagonist is someone who has been experiencing short-term time loops most of his life. He'll see something tragic about to happen and then snap back to a point where he can fix it. Then one day he comes home, finds his mother murdered, and snaps back to being 9 years old in the 80s. And time to fix whatever led to that, mate. It really rules.
Yeah, this fucking rips. I'm not big on thrillers, and I am inherently distrustful of time travel stories.
Yep.
But last time I took a chance on something because I thought it looked better than what I normally expect out of this. I got Summertime Rendering. So I watched Erased.
Yep.
And I'm really glad I did. I get why the ending is unpopular.
Yeah.
It's obviously a rush job. It's obviously not what is meant to be there. But it's also probably the best you could do in the circumstances, because if you're not getting another season, your only other option is to just end on a real shit downer, and
yeah,
I would have hated to see that.
What I will offer is that this is a show with effectively a 10 episode, 10 out of 10, absolutely perfect, no notes arc that's really good and really enjoyable.
That was the next thing I was gonna say. The ending is my only criticism of this.
That then has to wrap that in a slightly, in a too compressed, slightly convenient way. And that's a bit of a bummer that the last 2 episodes aren't that great. But they aren't bad. It's just, by comparison to the rest of the show, it's not great.
In a lesser show, it wouldn't have stood out as being a departure from the average. It's only because this was so fucking good all the way along.
And what's more, it now gives you a reverse version of the Full Metal Alchemist problem, where you can now go find the original manga and read the much expanded version of those 2 episodes and still get to pretty much the same point, the same very end of the story, with a much more elaborate, more interesting way of getting there. And I think that if you have to make a choice between what you execute on in this series, I'm so glad they chose to focus on the half they did. Real good show.
This is special.
Real good show, and talking about all the things in it I like would involve spoilers I don't want to give, or bummers I don't want to talk about.
I guess content warning, it is about the murder of children.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Well, I mean, it's a murder mystery thriller about children being serial killed, so... Yeah, congratulations. That's your gold standard of what to look for content.
You know in advance whether or not you're going to be okay with going in on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Also, fucking banger opening by Asian Kung Fu Generation.
Yeah.
Real good shit. Love that.
And that's another link to Full Metal Alchemist.
Aha! Truly, it's the root of everything good in anime. Just kidding. That's Astro Boy.
Is there anything else?
Nah. That's it.
Children of the Whale.
What was this? This had a much longer title in Japanese.
It sure did.
Right. Kujira no kora wa sajo ni utau. Which is whale calves sing on the sand. I'll forgive them for not translating that one literally, I guess.
Speaking of things that kind of look like Naushka if you squint.
Oh man, this is so fucking Ghibli inspired. Like, obviously not the character art style,
yeah,
but the world this exists in is straight out of Miyazaki illustrations.
Yeah.
They were obviously very into that stuff, and now what if we do a substantially more depressing thing with a lot more dead children?
Weirdest thing about it, to me, is, like, I want to compare this to Last Exile.
It's got a similar mood somehow.
Yeah, a similar kind of high concept, feeling of isolation, a degree of, like, we have to do things in a strange way because of our limited resources. There are magical powers, but they're not... there are magical powers that are infrastructural, but we can't use them the way that you would assume.
Maybe it's because Last Exile also feels like it would render its mech in watercolor given the chance.
Probably. But, like, I enjoyed this, but also, I can't remember how this ends.
That's because we haven't actually watched the final episode yet.
I clearly don't care that much about how this ends.
Well, that's because it, not unlike Erased, has a 10-episode arc.
Uh-huh.
But...
And then there are 2 more episodes sitting off playing Little Spanish Flea for 26 minutes.
Yeah, it's even weirder than Erased because it's not, we had to do a rush ending that covers the entire next arc. It's just, well, we're going to open the next arc and... Like, it literally is just, and now something completely different.
Yep, hopefully we get another season, which we don't, because this is 2017.
Oh, goodness.
But there is manga, and you can go check out the manga, and I have checked out the manga, and you know what? I'm not that wild about how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know what I expect from it exactly, but I feel very cautious about it. Because while it's doing a lot that I do like, including a certain, like, Sabaku Ibisco amount of just, like, people are preposterously hot in this.
Yep.
My favorite is the blonde one with the really long, pretty hair in the front who looks like a sad girl crying into the distance. Because he's the mayor of the village and he's just so good and lovely, and in the last episode we watched, substantially naked.
This is an anime that also plays with one of my favorite tropes, which is greater love hath no man than this, that a man explode and kill so many bad people for his friends.
Yeah, and just like we have one, like, tsundere combat badass, and this weird little extremely normal brain guy who, like, can't not write shit down.
Yep.
Like the world's most dedicated archivist. So it's just something fucking compels him to do this.
Yes, something you'll learn more about in the manga.
It's all really interesting stuff, but then they also have this little pink-haired widow over here who is your giggling psychopath who finds killing fun and doesn't understand why people don't want to play fun games with him, which is a character archetype I find deeply tedious and do not enjoy being around. Because you know what they never do? They never fucking die. I'm tired of them by the second scene they're in, but I know they're gonna be there for the whole fucking show.
You should read Monster.
Go away, Envy. Go away! You're hot, but you're so annoying. Yeah, so, I mean, I quite enjoyed this. It's probably worth a look if you don't mind knowing that you will never get satisfaction out of the anime.
Yeah, it won't give you closure, but it'll give you a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of old people who are wrong.
Yeah, I liked the direction it was going, at least at the end of the first arc, where it was like, you know, what if the old people who think you should just sacrifice everything you love and care about to crawlingly beg forgiveness from some fucking fascist dickhead who decided you were bad for being a conscientious objector.
Mm-hmm.
They might be full of shit.
Yeah. Like, you kind of trailed off there on that clause.
I was taking a breath.
Are we good?
Yeah. Do we have something else to talk about?
We have everything else to talk about. Dororo is a 1968 manga by Osamu Tezuka. Dororo is a 1989 anime. Dororo is a 2019 anime. Dororo fucking rules.
Dororo is a 2019 MAPPA anime.
Yeah.
I don't know how I fucking missed this in the season that it launched. 'Cause this could not be more my shit. I mean, he's tortured demon boy with half a body, can't see or talk, needs to win what is rightfully his back by becoming such a cool badass demon murderer that he can slowly regain his body parts and come to maybe for a moment catch a glimpse of the world he is working to save.
While hanging out with adorable and awesome little thief brat, Dororo.
We love a shitty little urchin.
Yep. Shitty little urchin as they deal with various monsters of the week. Sometimes it's a murder mystery. Sometimes it's a puzzle boss. Sometimes it's a centipede the length of a mountain pass that has to be stabbed in the face.
Sometimes this guy just loves his spider demon wife.
Yeah. This series is... It very much shows the way it came from a Tezuka front. In that, if you're familiar with anything else Tezuka's done, the most normal thing I would point to is Astro Boy, and you have these like high concept, sci-fi, short stories, each one of which is a self-contained episode, often wrapped up by someone dying tragically. Dororo is that whole structure, but told through historical horror.
It has a lot of the same tone of everyone being made to fight, even if they don't necessarily want to, and no one really coming out of this okay. But still just having to do the best you can and hugging the cute people who make life worth living.
Top tier action series. It is a story about... It is a horror story about feudal era Japan. So there is a lot of starvation, depredation, there's assault, there's sexual assault, there's dead bodies, there's cannibalism. It's
every kind of tragedy you can think of being associated with war, basically.
There's the endangerment of a child. There's a whole bunch of horrible stuff happening here, but also there is a cool, badass, blind hero who has swords for arms, who will leap through things and slice off baddies' eyes, heads, and arms.
Fucking swords for arms. It's rare that we see an anime where the main character is equal parts a Talen boy and a fox boy. But this is him. This is he. The thing I was kind of leading up to with the opening introduction and the description of this character is like, this could not be more like laser targeted at the kind of thing I like. Almost as if the person who came up with this was like the formative influence on what I think is cool and good and exciting in a story. Like,
it's very funny to me how you, someone massively influenced by Astro Boy from when you were 8 years old, encounter something from the same person and go, oh, I also love this.
He had my number from way back.
But not only that, this is also hitting, like, laser targeting for, like, let's be honest, some kinks you may have for people with prosthetic limbs. And, like, nonetheless, it's not necessarily like Tezuka was like, yes, I'm going to give everyone who reads this a kink for people who can take their arms off.
But that's how writing works.
That's what happens. You write the things you know, and apparently that's one of the things Tezuka knew how to do. It's an example of beautifully formative stuff. In the same way that, like, I read Monster and I read Pluto, and I was just like, oh, okay, these are Astro Boy stories that have been, like, blown up to the scope that I like as an adult, and therefore these are some of my favorite things. Same thing. Dororo is a very sketchy manga to go back and reread, because Tezuka's art style does not suit the kind of gory horror it is very well, and there's some ideas that aren't, like, literally weren't really well codified in how people told stories. Like, Hyakimaru talks from dot one in the original manga because Hyakimaru is talking psychically. Everyone can tell Hyakimaru's thoughts, but they don't realize they're hearing his thoughts because how else would I tell a story if the main character couldn't talk? And then we get this anime
I
that
love
takes
this treatment of it.
and
it's
just
so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It has a manga.
I can't remember if I talked about this when we talked about Pluto. But, like, rather than treating Tezuka's work as sacred, I really like revisiting it with this kind of... I always want to call it, like, a remaster, but what it is an opportunity to take something which is, like, seminal to, I don't know, whether you want to call anime a genre or a movement or what... however you happen to think of it, that is a fundamental part of the lineage of what this is now today and can be. But because it is so fundamental to it, just doesn't have the benefit of a lot of stuff that we have now of just, like, people's fluency in the language of storytelling is so much higher, like, as a viewer, that there are things you can do now because you know that people will understand them. No one's gonna go, wait, what was that meant to represent? What was that trying to convey? Mm-hmm. Like, people understand cinematic language like montage and what's the fucking
Kuleshov effect.
The Kuleshov effect. Thank you. You knew exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, like, these things are such common parts of the language that we use in storytelling now that they're in the toolbox and you can pull them out without even thinking about it. And you can use that to streamline a story in such a powerful way that you can really focus on the shit that matters. Like a Hyakimaru who can't talk at first, and like a lot of the other stuff has more of an impact on him as well, and like regaining the various parts and senses and stuff is really fucking important to what happens in this story, and is such a cool thing to explore that, maybe didn't get much attention dedicated to it in the first place.
This series rules. I liked it a lot. It's one of my favorite things I watched this year, and it's from 2019.
Holy shit, there are some cool fight scenes in this.
It has one of my favorite moments from any OP in the year too.
Is it the little bit where Dororo kicks that bug?
Yeah, there's a point where Hyakimaru has clearly killed something, and Dororo runs over and kicks it. And it's just so charming.
Dororo is great.
Yeah,
both character and series.
And not wanting to talk too much about the ways that all of this is executed on, in part because I think that the series is one that's very good about making all of its stuff step by step out from its central source, but also because we've almost been going for 2 hours.
I forgot we had some big talks.
But I thought this would fly by. I thought we'd have 40 minutes, but apparently I can talk very angrily about Carol and Tuesday for quite some time.
Yeah, because we actually watched like 5 incredible shows this season. 2 of which were from this season.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you that. I think Mayonaka Punch is fine.
Well, yeah, but I did say incredible.
Yes.
And it's probably not incredible. It's just good.
No.
It's good enough.
I agree.
Dororo is incredible.
Dororo is incredible.
Damn, I'm so happy that exists. More of this, please.
That's the thing I recommend. When seasonal anime is letting you down, there are all these other finished anime that are really good. You can go back and check some of that out.
I would have missed a lot if I had.
How was that sentence? You can go check out some of they out.
You're gonna go check some of they out.
I didn't do that accent.
No, it was gonna be more like Strong Baddie in my head, but it sort of turned into Mario a little bit.
Well, we can all enjoy being a little bit Mario and maybe a little bit Luigi these days. We good?
Well, as we learned from Recovery of an MMO Junkie, jobs might be bad.
Jobs might be bad. Still, 1 season to go.
What mysteries could it hold?